Right, welcome. Thank you all for coming to CDR Croydon.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I'm surprised at the crowd still. Thought it'd be about 5 people here.
So,
Nice.
thankfully not. So, just to explain for those who haven't been to CDR before, basically the format of the evening is, we've obviously got LB here. We're going to have a bit of a chat with him, Q&A as well. We've got a couple of wireless mics knocking about somewhere, so if you've got questions, then definitely want to hear them. So we'll have a chat with Lewis. Also, then, as you can see, we've got a project set up here, so absolutely we want to get into it, get under the hood of it.
Yeah, I'm going to do 2.
Yeah, we've got a couple of tracks.
Yeah, I'm going to do 2. We'll do 2 breakdowns.
Yeah.
And then I've purposely bought, fuck all samples, really, like a really small bunch.
Yeah.
Just a couple of little kick-off kind of idea vibes. But they're literally sounds. So what I was going to do is build up a track from scratch on any plugins that's there. Purposely, trying to use some shitty drums to kind of demonstrate how to kind of process them up into some half-decent fatness, you know what I mean? So I thought, we'll keep it raw and just go freestyle off the top of the dome type thing.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah.
And then we've already been playing some people's tracks. So we have this thing called Open CDR, which is essentially chance for everyone to hear. Let's hear your works in progress. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just all about bringing down the works in progress. Play it, hear it on the sound system. The sound system here at the front room is obviously fat. You can go home feeling nice about your tune, or you can go home feeling bad about your mix down. one or the other. But and we'll just vibe off it basically. And we're doing this every month, and hopefully we can build up a bit of a community of producers in Croydon as well, because I know you're all out there under the woodwork. There's just nothing for us to do around here. So I know this man doesn't really need much of an introduction. Can we make a round of applause for LB?
Thank you. Oh, bless.
Let's hear it. Welcome, sir.
Nice. I used to live here, actually. Lived here for about 5-6 years.
Oh, right, okay. Got the hell out.
Yeah, it felt good. Felt good.
Thanks for joining us. We're all looking forward to hearing some of your production insights and words of wisdom as well. So, and I'm sure most people are familiar with who you are, otherwise they wouldn't be here. But let's just find out a bit more about you, and just for those who aren't informed. And I've just got a few questions. We can have a chat, and then obviously I'm sure you're clucking just to get behind that Mac and just also get clicking as well, right? Yeah, I can see. Clucking to get clicking. So how long have you been making beats for?
I suppose, Gee, the picture on me, I'm that, I call myself a roadie baby. Dad's a musician. And I'm your typical little hyperactive ADHD child that can't sit still or be told what to do. So rather than being forced through the school system, which expelled me and suspended me at every left and right turn that I made, it was just pulled me out of the school system when I was about 14 or something like that, and just put me back on the road, where I'd kind of been with him for years. There's probably a reason why I was so unsettled in school was because I'd spent a lot of time with him and his bands touring. So to sit in a classroom and kind of stick to a routine was really hard for me. So you see the picture now. So come 15 years old, I'm expelled from all schools and they won't accept me and stuff. And I'm out of the curriculum completely now. And my dad does this gig where they can't afford to pay all the band members. So what they do is they break down a recording studio, empty this fucker out, and give all the band members bits of equipment to compensate the money they ain't been paid. I come home one day, there's a drum machine sitting on the table, you know what I mean, and a little effects box and stuff. Yeah. I think that was about it. One little synth, drum machine, and effects box. I said, what the fuck's that? He said, he explained to me the situation. Said, you better jump on it because no school's accepting you out here. You know what I mean? You're 2 years short of finishing school. I think I was about 14 at the time and stuff. So it was just just jump on this and start learning it, you know what I'm saying? So I just went all in. And then my dad...
What was the drum machine? Do you
it was an
remember?
R8 Roland, big old black thing with pads on it. I think that's what the MPC, Akai, took its kind of influence from. But my dad now, he was Now, this is where it will probably key in for peeps that know my music. He was in Latin and jazz bands, which you can blatantly hear in my music. It's not really a reggae influence and the ghost stuff. It's more a Latin salsa influence when you check it. Salsa rumba type. So I had that like a lot, a big influence as a kid and stuff, man. So that's basically me. I got an early start. I was lucky enough to not be in the school system for the last couple of years. A bit of a waste of a time when a child knows what it is they want to do. You know what I mean? So come 15 years old, I had my first record released, which was on Hard Hands record label, which belonged to those two guys that did the Guinness advert with all the horses charging out the sea. Left field. Just a lucky streak. I got introduced to them. And they just went through my catalogue of crusty tracks and picked two, which were a weird combination of drum and bass and techno.
Right, okay.
They even, you can come under the name Lewis Speaks. You can look it up. On one side is like a techno track, and the other side is like a weird drum and bass track. Bizarre stuff, but I'm 15 years old, and I've got a grand check advance on these two 12 inches. So, you know, I'm not going back to school. I know where I'm going from there. So it was kind of lucky enough to get an early start, man. Yeah. An early start. You know, I advise that to anyone that's got kids and the children that figure out what it is they want to do, and you can see they got a little talent for it. Just push them in that. You know what I mean?
Did your dad actually push you though? I mean, he obviously said there's the drum machine, but then was he on you about it?
My dad's not a revolutionary type, you know, activist type guy like me. He's quite smooth, liberal, lefty, I would describe him as. Do you know what I mean? So his thinking wasn't, let's get him out of the indoctrination school and get him on something early. It was just like, this little fucker can't behave himself. No schools accepts him because I got expelled for trying to sell weed at the age of like 12, 13 or some shit. It was ridiculous. So, it was just like, look, it's all he's got going for him. Yeah. You know what I mean? He can put a little beat together. My dad came and saw me messing around with drum machine, was like, whoa. I tried to join college to up the production. And the teachers were leaning over my shoulder going, how'd you do that? I was like, shit, I just left this. I left it, you know what I mean? So, that was a nice little early start, basically. Yeah, right. I was lucky to get in there because at the time, this was, what time are we talking now? 4 Hero, Mr. Cook, your son is dead. And if anybody in here is old enough to be around when them thing there drops.
There's a couple of guys over there, I know.
But if there is, you'll kind of, or even if you were straight after and you caught the wave, you'll know what them kind of things there influenced. It's kind of like, what are we talking? Are we talking
90?
Like, we're talking the back 89? End of the massive jungle scene that stormed across the UK. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Okay. The back end of that. Yeah.
So what was your, you had the drum machine, the RD8. What was the rest of the setup?
I was making techno.
What was the rest of the setup though? What were you making, like, is it all just samples apart from that?
Yeah, my birthday came along and he said, what do you want? Do you want a little something to go with your little 3-piece? I said, yeah. You know what I mean? I had my eye on a couple of little synths. He bought me a synth, spent about £600 on this fucker. So I was like, nice. You know, and then, you know, shits weren't cheap back in the day. It weren't like plugins. It was none of this. You'd have racks of stuff to the left and to the right, and each piece would be like $1,000 each, and the expensive bits would be like, you know, your $2,000, $3,000 keyboards. I don't know how the hell I managed to pull it off at such a young age. Unreal, because these prices. But when you scored yourself a remix, majors were paying $5,000-6,000. Independents were paying $2,000. You know what I mean? $1,500, $2,000, which is, you won't get that nowadays. You just won't get that shit. So it was, it was more lucrative. The business was flowing. Record shops were there. Every Friday, they were so happening, the record shops, every Friday you could go there to see your friends and your celeb DJs walking in to get their stuff. You bump into everybody. There was a community, a scene. You know what I mean? There was money to be made, so there was money to be put in there.
So you're obviously a kid when you're doing all of this. And it sounds like you're a bit of a whiz with it as well, naturally. But what was your process like actually making music back then? Was it just sitting there?
Natural. You had all this analog gear, wasn't it? Like what I was saying, to kind of carry on from that. You had all these racks of stuff, so it was natural. It wasn't really like programs like Logic that's designed to shortcut and make dance music. You know, loads of drag and drops and stuff. Quick chops, press a button, it does shit for you. There wasn't that before. Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, to bounce your stuff down when you finish your track, obviously, you know, you had to do it in real time. onto a DAT machine, you know. And sometimes we would have automated filters and shit. So you might be, you know what I mean? You might want to turn a little cut off. Oh, you fucked it. You got to go back again and record from scratch. You know what I mean? It was mad. It was mad. Sometimes I remember doing like 8 takes on a track just to get a filter right. So it was more natural. So it trained you to be more versatile, more multi-talented. You know what I mean? You'd be twiddling more knobs, learning more things. You might even break some fucking analog gear and have to open it up and solder something yourself. A lot of people did that. We had Aphex Twin that got so into that he was making his own units.
What was your go-to? I mean, what is your go-to bits of equipment these days that you're making music on? Or are you just strictly in the box now?
I've always been comfortable and happy to use anything that's available. That's why I bought a teeny little bunch of samples that don't even really have to be used. And I'm just going to try and pull something shit from the plugins and see if we can process it fat into something decent. Because I think that's quite important. When people come to check my technique or they want to ask a question or learn something, it's usually the drums, right? It's the drums, it's the swing in my drums and the quantize and that. That's what everyone's trying to want to get into, like figure that shit out. So I thought we'd just stick it on that. We just keep it on that, man. You know what I mean?
So your first track that you got released was techno on one side, drum and bass in the other. When did it morph into sort of
that's what I was kind of making.
Dubstep for you?
Yeah, I was lost in that. I went through another phase before. Right. I was lost in a techno-y kind of world phase from where I used to hit the clubs and experiment with, you know, taking my first pill and my first LSD trip, hanging around with the Dale brothers, Colin Dale from Kiss FM and stuff, and he had 2 other brothers, and they was all into production and DJing and stuff. So I came from the techno circuit a little bit, and then once I had my first record out and stuff and got into the production side of it, it was like, you know, I suppose your jungle was coming alive. You know what I mean? So within a year or 2 of production, I was hanging around in Metalheads trying to suck up to Goldie and the crew. Basically, a young rookie, they didn't know who the fuck I was just in there trying to suck up to them, man. There was some demo tapes. And they would take the demo tapes and go, yeah, I'll give it a listen in the car on the way home. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? But it's when I started doing the garage now, linked up with Noodles, hooked up with Noodles, the other half of the Groove Chronicles thing, started the Groove Chronicles thing, and then it was weird. It was like within 2 or 3 releases, I remember turning up outside Metalheads and where I'd been trying to, as I said, suck up to them, and I had to queue up at the door. I remember the turning point that stuck in my head was when Goldie spotted me from the queue, and he's gone, like, come up here and stuff, like, recognise me and stuff, and you're doing the Groove Chronicles thing, right? It's doing well on that garage side, right? Here your Noodles. I said, yeah, doing well. And he was like, how much you charge for a remix? I was thinking, like, maybe just go crazy and just put a garage track on Metalheads. I was like, fuck's he thinking? I don't know, maybe not, he must know what he's doing marketing-wise. All right, cool, yeah. He said, well, look, whatever you charge for a remix, bring up the office tomorrow and tell them and see if the budget clears it, blah, blah, blah. So that was it. You see the black and gold one there on the Metalheads, first and only fucking garage track on Metalheads.
Oh, yeah? Yeah,
it does exist. There's a 12-inch vinyl, black and gold press.
Really?
Yeah, Groove Chronicles, I believe, remix of a track off Goldie's second album.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's weird.
That's you? Okay, I've got that
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
us, yeah, Groove Chronicles, isn't it?
Yeah, okay.
So there was a slight turning point then, and from there, we were clapping remixes from the majors, Angie Stone, Drew Hill, stuff like that, and you know, stinging them for $5,000 a pop and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it was a good time. It was a good time. There was a lot of money going into it because they were making some money. You know what I mean? I had friends at Relentless and stuff, and the guy that was top honcho there was talking about the advance checks they gave so solid when they signed them and stuff. It was just, it's unreal.
So it was the meeting with Noodles, that's when you got into making the 2-step stuff, was it?
Yeah, he had a little listen to these jungly, techno-y demo tapes that I was throwing around. And kind of threw them in the trash as well. But what he said to me is, look, I hear something on there, man. Like, you're cool with the production, you're nice with it, so let's link up and do some of this garage thing, 'cause it's going to be big in a year or 2. Yeah. It was really early. It's like 1995 now, 1995, 96.
Yeah. But then you seem to have a natural inclination for the darker side of things.
Well, look, by this time now, I'm a fan of the Metalheads thing, right?
Yeah.
And he took me to a garage club or 2, and it was all like chocolate boy and I'll give you flowers. You know,
Yeah.
pinky perky, one finger note, toy sounding stuff. This is what it sounded like to me. Nowadays, the quality of the garage music's dropped so much. When you hear them old tracks, you're like, oh, wait, don't make them like they used to. These pop tunes that I used to like, you know, they used to make my ears bleed. I appreciate them now.
Yeah.
They're really well put together.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's why they went to #1 or charted as they did. But yeah, it was all that, man. And we done our thing. I can't produce this toy pop music. I don't have it in me. You have to get in where you fit in. Don't lie to yourself. So I've produced a few pop tracks. When you hear them, they're just raw, beefy, and heavy-duty stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the Timberland stuff. You know what I mean? It's pop, but it's club, raw, street. You know what I mean? For the streets as well at the same time. So I can't really do the commercial sounding stuff. And true, I'd come from the metalheads thing. So my only way of interpreting it was to take those drum and bass lines and put them on the garage. I didn't hear none of that when I was in the club. Do you know what I mean? It was weird. When I first touched my garage club, my first garage club, we're talking 1997, and I can picture it now. I'm in Twice as Nice, and you've got Arsenal football players and Chelsea football players turned up, and all the guys are, you know what I mean? All the guys are stomaching this music, and they're dressed up to the nines, and they're ordering bottles of overpriced champagne just so they can move to women, and it's that type of vibe. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's very fancy and, you know what I mean, glossy and tacky. Yeah, so it's just my way of kind of doing it. Otherwise, I wasn't going to be able to do it. Do you know what I mean? Take something, and then at the same time, I thought it might just if I was lucky, which it did, just corner me a little sound. Do you know what I mean? And it was like once it started, I think the first track was 1999, Red and Black DPR cut, 1999. Sounded a lot like the Black Puppet, like the Levi advert or whatever it was at the time. Puppet, bloody. Anyway, Black Puppet, 1999. It's a big, fat, nasty, distorted bass line. You know what I mean? With a little Reggae Man sample in it. And it's just that UK potion you've all heard a million times, but it wasn't in existence at that tempo. So when we dropped a tune or two, it just the reaction was wild. I remember being in Iron Apple in a club, and it's, plinky plonky and pop music's firing off. And they played a 1999. I think it was like Mike Roughcut Lloyd played the 1999. It's the only kind of track that sounded like that. It's the only raw, like, you know what I mean, dark like track like that. And he's dropped it, and all of a sudden, all these rude boys just come out of nowhere. Like, they was in the club. I didn't even see them. They were just bored and just in the shadows, just chilling in the back, just like that. Once they heard this tune come out and started like bum, 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 bum on the DJ booth, you know what I mean, for a reload and stuff. Yeah. I see them, it's lit up like, whoa! And then when the tune finished, they went back to their corner and sat down again. I was like, okay, I see there's a need, a demand for some beef on this scene, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna, as soon as I saw that, it was like, I'm gonna latch onto this. Okay. You know what I mean? And just fucking hit it as hard as I can and flood it.
Is that when you started Ghost? Around
Started Ghost. Straight away, that was like, coincided with the fact that I realised that Noodles was cutting a lot of deals on the side, and I didn't know nothing about it. So a lot of money wasn't reaching me. Okay. So I was like, severed that relationship, had the guts, the balls to kind of make the sacrifice if it meant no business for a little while, and I have to re-establish the connects. He used to keep me locked in the studio. It's exactly what Ramsey and Fenn used to do to a young MJ Cole, if you don't know the gossip from back in the day. There's some serious... most people would say his best work is the stuff where it's Ramsey and Fenn, and underneath in the small print, you look for it, it's got Matt Cole written at the bottom. Right. And these are the best productions. They're amazing. They had him there, when you've got no connects and you've got a studio to use for free, and peeps are giving you the promise of getting your music out there, you go for it, because it's the first step as far as you're concerned when you're a young, you know what I mean? Yeah. Naive one with a bit of talent. So that's what I had with Noodles. He had me locked in the studio, just churning out these tracks, and they're getting better and better and better, and we're reaching out wider and wider. And he's just kind of, let me take care of the business. Don't you worry yourself about it. Do you know what I mean? But now our popularity's got to the point where DJ bookings start coming in, and I don't DJ. So who collects all of that? That's all him. So he's flying around the place doing DJ bookings off of the back of the work that not we do, I do when locked in the studio by myself. And it gets annoying on top of that when your partner comes around to double check your work and he's not sitting in there producing it with you, but he comes around to do quality control, which ends up being take that out, turn that up, change that. You're like, fuck off. After a while, you're like, fuck this.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm saying? So another one of my advices is make the sacrifices you need to and have the balls to kind of go for yourself, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So without getting too deep into the politics of that relationship.
Yeah, no, that's it in a rough.
Let's keep it on the production
but
tip.
it's not a rare
cool.
story. It's a common thing.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
right.
And it's good because it's something that not many suffer from nowadays because you don't need so much of the teamwork.
Yeah.
Everyone's an independent entrepreneur more nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had a question for you about collaboration anyway, but we'll get to that in a bit. But so at this time when you're locked in the studio making beats for the Groove Chronicles thing, and you're transitioning to Ghost. What's the setup at the time? Are you still? Is it hardware?
Yeah, these days I'm on Cubase on a PC.
Yeah.
Apple's not taken over the market yet with their music programming software. Yeah,
in the
Cubase
bedroom,
is
in
the
the
top
bedroom.
one. There's no Logic. Cubase is the top thing.
You haven't got a proper studio set up. It's just in the bedroom.
Yeah, in the bedroom.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't even in the bedroom. It was in the bedroom, front room or some shit. But like, yeah, eventually, I got a couple of friends together and dug 6 foot because I had a garden in my flat. Dug 6 foot. Oh, yeah, that's it. Me and Noodles, the Groove Chronicles days, we did a setup in my shed. I had a wooden shed in the back of the garden. We soundproofed it with some plasterboards and rare tear, made it comfy inside, and was just roughing it in there, making tracks. Then took it seriously and thought, smash the shed down. When I split up with the Groove Chronicles thing, went solo, got some friends together, smashed the shed down and built foundations and threw concrete in there for a professional recording studio.
Nice.
Built a 2-room recording studio with like dual walls, cavity in the middle to stop sound, all the whole shebang. You know what I mean? Halogen lights on the ceiling, fabric walls, aircon.
Yeah.
It was nuts. Yeah, so that was the from 2000 to about 2005, 2006.
So you're kind of making this dark two-step sound, dark garage. I don't know what you'd call it. When did it start becoming like you started getting kind of involved in the whole dubstep thing?
I never really did, you know. I mean, yeah, kind of suppose that's the best way to describe it. Got involved, and that's about it. Kind of like connected, didn't it? Connected to the scene.
Yeah.
But never really produced no dubstep. Never got into producing no dubstep. Yeah, just.
But people always kind of consider you within that.
You know what it was? It didn't help me living in Croydon. That kind of cemented things just a little bit more because I got to be kind of pally with the whole dubstep family, the Cokies, the Hatchers, the N-Types, the Malas, the Rare Tear. They're all from around here. But you had the Big Apple Records legacy and all that stuff. So yeah, but no, it was just because those guys that ruled the dubstep scene and carried that through and built that up, their first influences was Ghost, didn't it? Was my stuff. So that's that connection. Just the kind of like I'm the granddad of that kind of, you know, the godfather-y kind of figure of that thing. Well, that's what they coined me as.
Yeah.
Though doesn't put any money in your pocket, any bread on your plate, you know what I mean? But it's nice. It warms the heart and shit. You know what I mean?
Kudos doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah, send some respects out and all that. Scream will send a tweet. Great. But I mean, it's like, it's quite technical because you want to hold your own. You want to hold your own. You want to hold your own character. You want to hold your own brand in the marketing if possible. You don't want to get submerged into the dubstep scene, for instance, which wasn't 100% me. It wasn't the direction I was going to be going in the future. That wasn't my music. So I tried to learn how not to let the thing... Yes! I've been thinking about you. We'd do a little chat. It was really important not to let the thing submerge because it was lucrative. There was bookings. Them lot were flying around the world collecting money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if I'd have got sucked in with all that and rolled around the world and done all the thing with the rest of them, I would probably be a little bit like this by now. Do you know what I mean? A little bit rinsed out. You know what I mean? So it's good I kind of kept myself a little bit rare, a little bit elusive. Do You know what I mean? That's another bit of good advice. Just get on a good thing in your corner and be patient with it. It'll, you know what I mean? Let it take its time it needs. Don't rush the thing. I had a good conversation with DJ today, female DJ that's coming up in the scene. You all know who she is. One of our top female DJs, and she's moaning about being a victim of what I would call token diversity bookings. Yeah? Raves that are just putting girls on for the sake of evening up the lineup so they don't get called, misogynistic or whatever, or not booking any females. So they grab females and just put them on to show that they're diverse with their lineups, but they're not putting these DJs on at the right place with the other right DJs, don't connect with them. They're putting them low down in the lineups. They're not treating them right. Do you know what I'm saying? The female DJs not stupid. They know when they're getting booked just so they can just even up a lineup. They're being used. And starting to understand that now. So, and then another thing as well, we've got the agents that are really stressing the game out. They're pushing the prices sky high, and they're doing kind of blackmail moves with promoters, which is making it really hard. Because I mean, we got the times are hard right now. We're being financially raped. Everyone is being financially juiced, and all promoters are really like young guys, man, and they're working on what budgets they've got. You don't need agents pushing sky-high prices and holding promoters ransom. Like, for instance, okay, you want our top guy on our books. You can book him, but you got to take these two little guys as well. It's like a blackmail move, what they're pulling on promoters. Do you know what I'm saying? Especially the festivals. You know what I mean? They come for the big headliner artists. Okay, cool, you can have them, but you got to take this guy and this guy as well. So we're trying to push them onto more lineups. And that's where you have these problems I was talking about just a minute ago. So the scene's in a stress, man. Scene's in a stress. Everybody needs to make the right decisions. Do you know what I mean? And do shit for not financial extractions of the scene. Just do it for a long-term cause so we can all keep getting employed. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, you obviously started making music when the days when you could get paid £1,000 for a 12-inch, and
there's a lot flying around. People were frivolous with their money because you're gonna make it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how do people make money in it now? Because obviously that sort of money's not around anymore, is it?
I don't know. How do they make money now? This is the complicated thing. This is marketing and branding. Yeah. It changes like the seasons. Yeah. I've got a guy that I work alongside. Would I call him my friend? Would I call him business partner? Would I call him manager? He acts as all three. But he's the marketing and branding. He knows about that thing. You know what I mean? When it comes to production and how to make something sound good, he asks me. When it comes to marketing and branding, he's teaching me. And it's a long road. We've been working together for about 6 years now, and I'm still learning stuff. Yeah, I'm still learning what not to do. This is the thing in the music game. It's learning what not to do. Yeah, you know what you need to be doing. It's learning what not to do. Yeah, that's the most important thing. Because I see a lot of people with them just don't know how they're slightly like damaging their career and stuff, doing things that are not good for them and stuff. But we see it. Me and my partner, we sit there and watch it and we discuss it every day, and that's weird.
How do you think you've managed to keep yourself, because you've been in the game, 20 years plus?
Him.
Right?
Him. I said to him on the phone the other day, I said, if it weren't for you, I said, I love you, man. If it weren't for you, I'd be knee deep in the shit that I was when you found me about 6 years ago.
Right.
Kind of lost musically. Okay. Don't know what I should be really producing.
Right.
Don't know who I should really be accepting bookings from. And don't know the collabs and the remixes I should really be accepting. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Understand, he's taught me the concept of you work your way up the ladder, never down. There's no such thing as a neutral position. You're either working your way up the musical ladder or you're making a regression. You know what I mean? And you don't put time and effort and money into yourself to make regressions, i.e. you've been grafting to get your name up there, and then some new guy wants to come and work with you. You have to give him time to get his name up, do you know what I'm saying? Because otherwise it's kind of like, this is the way the music game goes. There's a sorry thing about it. Same with the film business. It's the what's it called? The, what do you call it? Performing arts? Or just the media world in general. It's like that. You've got to keep that progressive going up the ladder. If you see me DJ at a small little rave for a nice little cute fee, you know what I mean? That's because the guys that are having the rave, they're doing a really good thing. I want to help them out. They're shooting themselves in a good direction. I like the way they're doing their marketing. I think they got a future, and I work with them. Do you know what I'm saying? It's the same with the remixes I accept. You know what I mean? If it's someone small, that's because I'm supporting. know what I mean?
The takeout I took from what you just said about having that your friend, business partner, was basically if you can have someone who can offer a different skill set,
If you can find,
perspective.
you're lucky. Because team only needs to be 2 or 3 man, isn't
Yeah.
it? Really.
Because I suppose there's like nowadays it's all you see everything on Instagram and whatever. It's like you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do it all yourself. But what you're saying is actually you've got somebody else to take care of.
Yeah, you can try and do the same with anything in life. You can try and do it all yourself, but there's power in numbers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's team. You look at anything that's moving out in the music game, any unit, any machine, any music machine that's pushing any artist that's behind them. It's a little team behind them that's doing well, you know what I mean? You've got a good team.
Yeah. Do you want to jump onto the
Yeah,
to the Mac? Should we get into it? I think I might have done.
1, 2. You unlock that for us. I've done, yeah. Not made especially, but chosen especially. So I went through everything on my folder and chose 2. I thought they'd work bad because one kind of demonstrates a bit of an arrangement, and the other one just demonstrates how you can have a whole 5-minute tune with just a 2-part loop and go back and forward, back and forward, back and forward, making ever so slight changes. And, it just works. It's wicked. First one's like a tricky little 2-step thing, and the second one's a rowdy ghost. Both of them never been heard before, and they're quite tough still. Break it down. But it might speak for itself as it builds up. Right, so I've got a little noise in here. I don't know if I'm supposed to be here or not. Yeah. Okay. Get rid of that. A noise is switched. This is some little windy effect I had in the intro. Okay, so I'm going to explain before the drop, see what we've got going on here. Because I've got hi-hats, a rim shot, and 2 kick drums, I think.
Should we talk about those kick drums? You've got 2 of them.
Right, what I like to
Can
do
we
is
look at how
bounce.
you've laid them up?
I get my kick drum, and sometimes I'll bounce a little kick drum off of my main kick drum. Anyone know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Well, you got your kick drum, and it's thumping the way you want it. It's got all your dynamics in it. It's got a good bit of bottom end in it and shit. That's your main kick drum. And then I'll take another kick drum that's tighter and take the bass off of it and turn it down a little bit and bounce it off of my main kick drum. I wonder if you can hear it.
Do you want to solo both so we can hear them separately?
I can't because I'm on WAV.
Oh, okay.
So
they're
I'll
bounced into
solo
one. They're
the-
bounced into one track. Okay, yeah, okay.
Solo the kick drum. Don't know if there's anything on it though. There you go.
Yeah, okay.
They're barely bouncing off each other. You've got one, then you've got the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what we'd usually do is when I say bounce one off the other. So Carl Brown loves to do it. He'll have a beat that's like, instead of the kick drum going, ka, it'd be like, ka. You know what I mean? Ka. Instead of ka. You have the little one bouncing off the big one. So you got 2 big kicks, 2 main kicks, and you put your little one in between. So you get that bouncy effect going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, a little bit of a thin kick drum in there to go with the big one, which makes it quite techy. I don't know if it will stay like it because I can't remember. But instead of your boom, we're going boom, boom, 1, boom, boom, 1. In case Jay's not. Okay, there's the clap on the every second. One of them split before. there you got it. It's quite complicated, isn't it, the beat? We're going to break it down so you see how it's not actually complicated. It's just the way they bounce off each other that makes it sound complicated, tight. All right, bass. Please. Right, I'm just noticing I've got key,
Grab the mic. Grab the mic.
bass. Key, stab, bass. Yeah, I probably should unwire this and just my hyperactive self and walk with it. Yeah, you're good, I got it. So, just noticing placement, yeah? So yeah, something I noticed Steve Gurley does. It takes its turn. They take their turn, the bass, and then the key stab, the bass, and the key stab. Yeah. It's nice to kind of have space. Less is more with a garage. You know what I mean? If you dismantle a Steve Gurley track and listen to what he does, he's got a little. Every little sample, every little key thing he has, it's got its place and its time where it comes in. Basically, what I'm trying to say. Right, let's bring this back in. Should we break this down?
Yeah.
It's very, very, very complicated still. Right, let's squish it up.
We can look at that bass. And then also, I don't know if are you able to deconstruct the drums on this? Or is it?
A little.
Yeah.
Right.
We should also pass the mic as well if anyone's got any questions. I don't know. Where are the wireless mics?
Don't know if you can see from.
If anyone's got a question, grab the mic. It's just sitting here and there in the front.
I don't know if y'all can see from the arrangement, but I kind of. I suppose you can see with these orange ones here that I kind of go on and off.
What is that?
Like I'm either going on and off to an 8-bar arrangement, or I'm going on and off to a 16. So yeah, listen one more time.
Can you zoom in on that track? On that zoom in on the bit you're trying to show us.
No, it's the overall look of the arrangement,
Okay.
the way it kind of goes off and on. We go up, then we go down with the arrangement. I think now it's up. There we go, now we go down.
Yeah.
So what we've got here is an arrangement, but once again, like I said, you'll see as with the ghost thing I'm going to bring up in a minute, it goes back and forth, back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And keys up, keys down. Now, I don't know if I doubt I've even got a change in the bass line, but you put a slight flip in the bass line, you've got your change back and forth, back and forth. Now, you know there's not much more than that other than an intro and a mid-break, and you've got a 5-minute arrangement. You know what I mean? Just in case anybody was kind of like, I feel bad for people when they say to me they're having problems with arrangements. Because I think as soon as you unlock it and you know what I mean, it's just something you're not getting. As soon as you get it, you're just going to be flying.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, if you look at the tune that you've got on YouTube, Buck and Berry, there's a comment on there saying, "Never known anyone to be able to do so much with so little."
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
And so few elements, but how do you know, the arrangement is, and how do you keep that tension that you know?
Well, like I said, I'm ADHD, so things have to be simple.
Okay.
And they have to be effective because ADHD, you lose attention quick. So if it don't interest me, I'm bored, I'm gone. My attention goes elsewhere really quick. So the method of my music is simple and it's effective, you know what I mean? Want to make a statement, want to stand out. So, I mean, just attempt to do that, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? Attempt to do that. I mean, I'm gonna attempt to do that with some thin drums here and
Okay.
see if we can just use a basic compressor to just kind of trick them up. You know, do like a rugged push too much on the gains, and then we're gonna do a nasty little squash too much on the limiter. You know what I mean? We're going to push the level right up so it's kind of almost distorted, and then we're going to squash it back down with the limiter so it's in order, and you can tump it up on the volume, and it don't fuck your speakers up.
Just out of interest, actually, when it comes to the overall mix here, you got a lot of tracks there, right? Are you mixing down as you're going along? You know,
Well, these grey ones, are the MIDI tracks. Let me say, like, ignore these grey ones, get rid of them, because they're the MIDI tracks that I bounced just in case they didn't play when I turned up here.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at the red.
Okay.
When it comes to the drums.
Yeah,
because they said I was dyslexic as well. But sounds like I should have just brought a violin with me the way I'm going on. But I do my drums in red. I do my bass lines in orange.
Okay.
And all the rest there is just flows into green and blue.
Every track you make is always the same colours?
Nah.
No.
But like you should see this tonight is what you'll see. Red drums, orange bass.
Yeah. Have you got any insights that you can share around just some basics that you always do, whatever the track, you always do it, like mix down wise?
Always do it. Pushing up, running drums through a compressor, pushing up the gains, and pulling down the limiter to squash them back down. That little technique that I just said. Pushing them up sometimes till they're distorting or almost distorting, to fatten up thin little drums, and then just pull the limiter right down on them.
Every time you do that?
Yeah. It's a cheap squashing. It's a cheap, drum containment technique. You know what I mean? Saves, it's basically saves you going through loads of expensive compressor plugins and trying to twist knobs until you get that perfect smoothness. Like,
so it's a bit raw,
like
basically.
sod all that.
Yeah.
You just want it to punch and be clear.
Yeah.
That's all I'm interested in when it comes to my drums. I just wanted them to have some punch and be clear.
And are you doing that, like you're doing it for the kick separately, or do you bounce them all into one?
Everything gets bounced off after, because once you bounce off a MIDI part, when it comes to drums, anything really, but it's most effective with drums. Once you bounce off your drum stems to WAV, obviously, you just doubled your potential in what you can do with it. Like I'll do shit ton of editing to I'll do editing until I'm happy with it, and then bounce it, and then I can do more once I bounced it.
Okay, so you actually...
WAVs you can really tamper with. You can chop up and do something you never thought you had before or whatever, and reverse it, and it really comes alive. The WAV comes alive much more when you put plugins on it than it does with the MIDI stuff, coming straight out the plugin.
So you're creating the grooves in MIDI before you...
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you see now, everything bounced. That's how all the tracks will end up anyway. Okay. Once I'm happy with every channel, every line, I'll bounce them all off. Bounce them to the screen, and then when I know I'm definitely not going to make any changes that I need to bounce over again, see the grey ones at the top, the midis, I'll chuck them in the bin. Sometimes you'll chuck a MIDI track in the bin and be like, shit, I want to write a little something different, you know what I mean? I want a little change here, and it's too late because I've dashed it in the bin or whatever, and now I've just got the audio WAV bounce, that's it. But, that's what I do in it sometimes. You just got to make sure that you're fully done with it before you dump your shit in the bin, man.
Just out of interest, from the drum programming perspective in MIDI, what plugin, what program are you using to do the drums? Is it Battery or something?
Anything. Battery's the one with the most choice at the moment. Most control and choice. But I'll use anything. Sometimes, certain things have their sound. Processors in synths have their sound. Like Massive, for instance. It's got its Massive processor that sounds like Massive, gives it its signature sound. The way the analog comes out of it and all that. It's really fine differences between them, but if you can hear it, you can hear it. It's got a particular sound, Battery, and sometimes you're not in the mood for that. You know what I mean? It's clean and it's smooth, it's Battery. You know what I mean? If you want something rugged and raw, you're better off going to grab something from a bunch of samples from vinyl. DJ Perception, he swears by it. 80-90% of the time he refuses to use drum sounds out of synths because he can't get that authentic analog rugged sound that he wants for his garage drums. He always takes his drums from sampled vinyl, and he always tells me, anytime you want that authenticity, stop using the fucking drums from Battery, because he knows what I'll do. I'll take some drums from Battery or some shit, and I'll process them so they sound rugged, and I'll bounce them off, and I'll run them through some processes to rough them up and make them sound rugged, you know what I mean? When he's just like, look, just take it off of a vinyl sample, because when you do that, the vinyl's already been mastered, processed to be as loud. It's already been rounded off and EQ'd and everything, you know what I mean? So you're getting all the dynamics that you want from taking a sample. Sample's always better. Always push through stronger.
So when it comes to the samples, you're then loading. If you're working with samples, you load them into Battery as well, and then.
No, I've never loaded a sample into Battery ever. Like I create my own samples with what I can get my hands on.
So when you're working with samples, how are you putting the? Is it just audio? Are you working with audio on the screen and then moving?
Yeah. When you actually get some samples, I don't really do it much. That's a perception thing, you know what I mean? Because I don't really need that authenticity that he does. Yeah. I'm not doing like UKG like that, you know. But
yeah. Has anyone got any questions on any of this? Anyone want to know more about the drums? Seriously, speak up. Go for it. There's a mic. Grab the mic. Grab the mic from there. If you could pass the mic, Joe. Thanks. Oh, hang on. Hang on a minute. Come over here. Come over here. Come over. Come over. There you go. There you go.
Hello, hello.
There we go.
Yeah. I was just wondering how you put together your drums. Is it like kick drum and snare first, or?
Ooh.
That's a good one, because that's probably the bit I can't wait to get onto. Like hi-hats I start with. So when I say I can't wait to get onto, I mean building up the beat from scratch. That's the bit I can't wait to get onto tonight still. What I do is, how about this? I'll pull someone out of the audience to be my hands for me. Yeah, and you see how easy it is. I'll stand behind you and direct it. Because the reason why I do this is, sitting there and watching someone moving over the screen at 100 miles an hour, I don't think you can take that home. If I bring someone up here, you remember like, you know, when you was little, watching your dad chopping up the veg, watching your mum chopping up the food. She's doing her thing, she's been doing her thing, you just be watching it catching on. But if she says, come here, take the knife, chop that for me, yeah, no, mind your fingers, that's not, you're gonna cut them, that, boom, and show you how to do it. Now you take that home with you, you know how to do that shit. So if I sit someone in the chair and be your director and you be my hands, you're gonna see like, wow, I just done an LB beat, how fucking easy it is. And you can take that home and everybody can see it better than they would be able to do if I was doing it. You know what I mean? Okay. And we'll move through it swift anyway, because anyone that knows how to tinker around on this even half decent is cool, because it's very basic and effective, like I said, what we're doing here, and I'm right behind you.
Well, do you want to jump into it then? I know you're clucking to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. Let's load up that.
Bassline's just filtered down. By the way, he was asking about the bassline.
Yeah.
Yeah, bassline's just filtered down.
Again, that's just is that just like a
EMF1 synth straight out of Logic?
Yeah. But
tuned up my bass as good as I could. It's filtered down, obviously. Tuned up my bass as good as I could. Bounced it off. You know what I mean? Bounced it down onto the same screen, and just ran it through more processes to fatten it up. You know what I mean?
Do you do things like putting a mono utility on it to, you know, I don't know, there's always this chat about sub bass needing to be in mono when you know, I don't know, do you bother with all of that kind of thing?
Right, once I got a Craig David, well, I got two Craig David remixes, but I fucked one of them up, because what I did was I took his vocal and I did this with the stereo pan.
Yeah.
Left and right, not this.
Mm.
You're supposed to.
Hard left and right.
I did, yeah. No, I didn't even do this. This is about as far as you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
I went like this.
Okay.
Yeah. Two analog channels. I got one and pull it all the way left and all the way right.
Yeah.
And club sound systems are in mono. Guess what happened to the vocal when it got played in the club?
Disappeared.
It totally vanished.
Yeah.
It totally disappeared. Turned the fucking doing that full pan left and right. Turned it into an instrumental. It was bizarre. Yeah, I didn't even know it would work out. It still kind of baffs me, but yeah, kind of makes sense. Stood in there and just watched it, but by that time there, you know, a job had been done, certain things had gone through, processing, gone through and all them things there, and you fuck the cut, and the label's not happy with you at all. You won't get no more. They won't be calling you again for the next one. They're going to go elsewhere. So that's what happened on that one. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all I know about mono.
Okay.
So what I do is I have my drums and my bass in mono.
Okay.
And all my sounds, they're all in stereo.
Can you give him the mic? Can you take the mic? Press the button to turn it on. Give it a sec.
Hello?
There you go.
You mentioned earlier you had like a lot of Latin influence in some of your earlier stuff. What is it about the Latin stuff that you thought you could use? Like, what were you listening to in Latin music that you thought you could sample specifically? And then secondly, what do you look for to try and sample in your music generally?
I'm not a big sampler, first and foremost, you know. I'm a writer. What I do when I produce, I hear the whole tune here. I kind of structured, imagine and build the whole tune in my head real quick first, and then I go to search for the sounds. I try and find the sounds that I hear in my head. So, therefore, there's a lot of writing going on and a lot of sampling my own writing and twisting it up and fucking up, trying to create my own samples rather than actual sampling, you know what I mean? But like I say, I like to do all different techniques and take anything I can from anywhere. So if I could get my hands on some good samples, like any producer would, you know what I mean, mess around with it, definitely. But it only leads to trouble, you know. Yeah, it leads to trouble. The longer the sample you take and the less you edit it down and disguise it, the more trouble you set yourself up for, because you could have a track that uses quite a significant sample and you got it sitting around for a while. 8 months, a year later, certain DJs start playing it, starts to get hot on the road, starts blowing up, you know what I mean? Now a label or two wants to put it out for you, but they can't because they can't get clearance on that sample. If you take that sample out, the tune's not the same anymore. You know what I mean? I've seen this a lot of times. I've had this problem. Grand Theft Auto rang me up and they wanted to give man a certain amount of £1,000, you know, a certain amount of racks for a couple of old, you know, 20-year-old rinsed out old ghost tunes that we've done as much as we can do with. So there's no reason why you shouldn't just sell them to be on the Grand Theft Auto thing and get a last fucking few grands out of it. Yeah. It's a nice bit of money. They said just extract that Buju Banton sample out of it and we're good to go. You know what I mean? Nah, sorry, mate. That track was done back in 2000 on the old Cubase, on the old PC. You know what I mean? That's in bits from years ago. You know what I mean? No chance. There's no folder no more. There's nothing, you know what I mean?
And they weren't willing to pay for the clearance on that?
No, you couldn't get that clearance.
Oh, right.
Can't get that clearance.
Yeah. So just going back to the question around Latin music as well, though, you mentioned the influence there.
Yeah, you know, like my dad was, he's a saxophonist for use, you know, a saxophonist for hire. Someone told me, I don't know if they were pulling my leg, said he's in like the fucking Guinness Book of World Records for most used sessions player or some shit like that, because he's played it everywhere. Like growing up with him on the road was mad. 1 minute I'm with Kate Bush, next minute I'm with the Specials. Yeah, and then next thing you know, he took me everywhere. Took me to fucking record with the Wailers in Bob Marley's studio in Jamaica. He's played with goddamn Fela Kuti, Miles Davis. I checked his resume one time. I rang him up and said, Dad, I didn't know you got 2 tracks on R. Kelly's, like 12-play album. You know, that's one of the biggest fucking R&B things of all time. I read to him. Yeah. I said, you're on Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. What the fuck? He said, yeah. He said, don't you remember when I called you up? I said, I'm going into the studio down in the city and we got Lauryn Hill in the studio. I'm going to just record some sax parts for this. Do you want to come and meet her? I was like, no. What did I say? He was like, you said, fuck that. I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, he's been around. He's musician slag. Like everyone's used him. You know what I mean? Everyone's had a piece. He played with everybody. So that's how I grew up on the road. Just running around backstage while they do their rehearsal. Yeah. While they do their gig, I fall asleep in his big baritone saxophone case. He's a saxophonist, plays all the sizes.
So it's just basically in your bones, essentially. So
yeah.
It's just whatever
roadie,
you're making. It's
true roadie child. Yeah. True roadie baby.
Yeah. The influence is always there. So what are we looking at now then?
A ghost loop. goes back and forth. You've got two different moods, one on the yellow, one on the browny orange thing. And check it out. It's that salsa kind of thing going on, but it's devilish. Might be a little, when you first load a track up and you get the teething problem.
Yeah.
And then into the orange. Slight switches. Not much needed. Touch his bass back a bit, it's too much. I think we got the same thing. It's just the orange is just a matter of this and this. And that's it. You completely change the mood. You got two completely different moods just from dropping that in and out.
So it's all about just adding little elements here, throughout the track to create just a slightly different feel.
You know what I do? Pretend it's a song. I pretend it's a song and we're going from verse into the hook, back into a verse, into a hook, back into a verse, into a hook again. You know what I mean? So you want one to be stronger than the other. It's what I tend to do. Give and take away with your arrangement. That's a good one. You know what I mean? Full on, give it to them, and then extract and give back. You could do multiple drop back ins. Right, what we've got is a 16 here, and a little something comes in halfway through the 16, so it's not just the same all the way through.
Yeah.
I can do this about 4 or 5 times. This has got, what's it called, a lot of stuff on it, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got gear on it. That's what mine's doing nowadays.
Hopefully we load this up and then also build a track after this.
Yeah.
So just a quick question on the collaboration side of things while we're waiting for this to load. You've obviously collaborated with a lot of people over the years, MCs and other DJs and stuff.
Yep.
What is your advice to people on what's do's and don'ts and collaboration like for a successful partnership in the studio? What would you say?
What, business-wise or work relationship-wise,
Work-wise, actually
technique-wise?
creatively in the studio, you're sitting there with someone making music.
Don't know. Something comes to mind. Working with Carl Brown on the L-Tough stuff. He would not hand the mouse over. It was like watching someone produce by themselves. That wasn't very nice.
How did you deal with that?
That wasn't very nice.
How did you deal with that?
Well, how you deal with that one is you say, move over. I've got an idea. Get off. Yeah, like, but out of the way. I've got an idea. Let me try this out. And then you just stay there and don't move like he did. Let him have to do the same to you. So basically, yeah, my advice is don't be like Carl. and everyone gonna be nice. Everyone gonna be happy. Everyone can get their point across.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Share the
Another
love,
thing
share
as
the
well,
mouth.
don't be a yes man. If someone you're working with is throwing down some dodgy ideas, you've got to straight away say, nah, that's not the one. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, the longer you leave it, the harder it's going to be to say nah, or the harder it's going to be to tell him when he comes back the next day, like, yo, I deleted that thing that you wrote. You know, it wasn't really working.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah.
Is this working?
Let's
yeah.
let's see what we've got here. Breakdown. Right, so this is the beat I hear in my head, yeah? So I could do it, I'll be like beatboxing to myself. You got one? With a little change at the end. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to step to the computer straight away and I do a hi-hat that mimics that. I don't even know what it is, but it should be that. Okay, there you go. I slapped it down. That's what I slapped down. I didn't know what it was going to sound like. And you know what I mean? I always start with the hi-hats. If I pull someone out and sit them down to write, we're going to go straight into hi-hats and show you an easy, effective way of doing hi-hats. Get a great swing on it, and everything comes from there. Once you get the hi-hats swinging nicely, it's a no-fail job with the kick and the snare. As long as you put a kick at the beginning, you can put your shit anywhere else you want after that. I usually do a mad thing. We'll do a thing where it's like, I could like blindfold you or you look the other way and just move a note randomly. Move a snare or kick just randomly into any square you want and watch, it's going to sound good without even looking.
Let's do it. You want to set up a project there?
All right, hold up. Let me show you how we're going to do it. So, like, I'll imagine a riff, and I'll get someone to write it. Because I had that, obviously, cat, I had to get that. Either go for the kick or the snare first and get that pattern out over the top of my hats. But it's cool because I can hear it already just by listening to the hat by itself. So you see how these things come together so easy. Right, now look.
Is that kicking the drum mimicking exactly the hi-hat? Just taking it in turns?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, you can't fail if you get the hi-hat groove first.
Yeah.
You just get two hi-hats, one slightly closed than the other. Because listen. Sounds like a speeded up hip-hop beat from 1982.
Yeah.
Shit. You understand what I'm saying? It's all in the hats.
Yeah.
That's where the salsa is. The salsa's in the hat swings. Trust me. This one's acting worse than mine, you know. So you just put a little bit of percussion on top. Oh my God, every time I stop it, it don't want to start again. So lazy. Just
Yeah, it's not liking this
the odd
project.
nice little, I just go for the odd little nice little piece of percussion, like a really distinctive conga or a bongo or a cowbell or some shit. Let the bass line go instead there.
Is that bass line? You got two tracks there. One's obviously the loud rumble, but is the other one the tail of it? You've just filtered it out or something?
Ah, yeah. Yeah, I'll have a look at the bass. I think you've got is. I think I've bounced the bass like wong 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 wong, and then I wanted the last note to go wah longer. So I think I've just bounced that last note separately, gone back and just extended the note after and just recorded that note separately, you know what I mean? Or tweak the synth slightly. See if I can pick up on some of this percussion. Can you hear the...
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Can you hear the kick flicker? Yeah, it's crashed again. Did you hear the kick flicker? Boom, da-cat. Yeah, that little tiny little tom-tom bounces off the kick drum. Boom, da-cat.
Yeah.
Just makes the difference. Makes all the difference to get some really quiet percussions and just put them in between your drums and stuff. Bounce some really quiet percussions off of your drums in the background. Sounds so good.
That's the difference between make it being flat or actually having that kind of groove. Basically.
Yeah, for me,
yeah.
I'm seeking, when I'm doing that, for me, I'm seeking more of a full live feel to the drums. You know what I mean? I want them to slightly sound a bit organic, a bit natural.
Yeah.
I know I'm never going to get it to sound like a live drum sample, but if you can get your, you know what I mean, your plug-in drums to sound like live drums, you smashed it. Some people actually can do that. Right, hit a little roll.
Yeah, the fill at the end, you mean?
The fill there, that's off a live kit. Dash that in there. As I say, I'm trying to get a little live feel on my drums all the time, you know what I mean? See if I can get that. There you go. A little tom between them kicks. Yeah, that's that little flicker thing I'm talking about. That's bouncing shit off of your shit. That's what I'm talking about. Bouncing things off your things. All right? You can do that.
It's a technical term.
You know, you can do that with the hi-hats. Tiny little hat off of your main hat.
Yeah.
Little tight kick off of your main kick. So on and so on. A lot of that going on in my drums, and you don't notice it until you kind of like notice it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a subconscious thing. The brain will take it in, but you don't really notice it's there until you study, you know what I mean? Break the track down and try and find it.
So you're doing that rather than using, say, delays and that sort of thing to
Delays, I don't use delays much. No.
Yeah.
Effects, reverbs, delays we use on the actual top end, what I call the top end, the sounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Drums is raw. To get a natural feel on snares and claps, half the time I'll put a really tight reverb and turn it right down. The little secret to the ghost snare was like a really short reverb that's ever so quiet on it. You hear how crap it sounds, how dead, like how blunt and quick, like got, how it sounds like a dot without it.
Oh, you brought the
with
the
the
sample,
reverb,
the
it's like
ghost.
it's got that little, you know what I mean, little trail away, it's natural.
Have you brought that ghost snare sample with you then, the original sample without the...
No, the ghost snare's right here, but I could tell you exactly how I made the sample. And could probably do it again in 5 seconds. Like, it's mad easy. So this snare, that's the ghost snare, right? Yeah, 1999, I think it's the first time you heard it. Badu, oh, no,
Yeah.
I know, no.
Right.
Right? The tune opens with dum 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 ka.
Yeah. That's that.
That's that.
Right.
Just took it, distorted it, put it, the gains right up on it. Once again, put the gains right up on it, and got a limiter and squashed it back down into place, and pitched it down ever so slightly and shortened it, and then put that tight reverb on it to give the trail away again. Yeah, you'll hear it. If you do exactly that, so if you just take that snare or any little, if you take that rim shot or any rim shot, because rim shot is so high and tight, you pitch it down, transpose it down a couple, distort it and squash it back down so it's controlled. You watch what you got.
I reckon we should open up a new project and build something quickly.
It's good.
Does anyone have any other questions? Don't be shy. Can you pass the mic to him, please? I think you might need to turn it on. I think on the side of it there's a button.
Going back to like collaborations, what was it like working with Burial, considering he basically sort of built his whole distinctive sound off your, like he loved your drums. Like, what was it? And just like him as a person to work with, especially at that time when, you know, he was still like this really mysterious figure.
How the fuck did I meet? How did I meet B? I don't even know how I got to meet him. I just heard one day that I had a flat in Brixton, and I heard he lived in Clapham Common, my side of Clapham Common. So I ended up just strolling to his house and meeting him. Maybe Code 9 hooked it up. I've known him for years. And upon walking into Burial's flat to meet him the first time, he had his studio set up in one room with this loop playing, a beat and a little atmosphere noise in the background and stuff. And it was playing in the room when I walked in, and walked straight past the doorway of the room. And we went in the kitchen and we chatted shit for an hour. And then we went and ate some food on the roof garden, and we chilled in the front room. I was there for about 2-3 hours, and this loop was just playing. I could hear it constantly playing out of the room. Like, not once did he go in there. It's like he was working on it when I came to the door, and he just left it playing and didn't touch the computer. I was like, are you going to press stop on that fucking thing or what? And he was like, no, that's what I do. He said, this is how I make tune. It's like when I get a groove and a vibe going, he said, I'll leave it on loop for like 2-3 days sometimes. And yeah, he said, and if I don't get pissed off a bit, he said, we're good to go. I was like, you're strange, man. You're strange. And his screen was going up. It weren't going across like ours does. It was going up, or it was going down. I was like, what the fuck are you using? It was like Cakewalk or something like that. He was using some old school program, and it had no quantize on it. It had no quantize on it. He had to stretch the screen out and move all the parts himself, and kind of like by hand make that perfect loop, and then get that and then repeat them across. Everyone individually. You couldn't just go repeat 30 times. It was mad. I was like, man, he on purpose really had his work cut out. He liked doing the shit the hard way, the old way. He was old school, organic kind of thing, and he would be sampling. So I quizzed him a little bit, and he'd be sampling movies. He'd be sampling movie scripts, movie sound scores, and pitching them down and mucking them about and that, man. He's a great guy. He's really emotional. He's really, sensitive. Everything. He's really affected by everything. So he has to stay out of everybody's way. And he has to stay away from the TV because the world, all this madness going on in the world really fucking, it affects him spiritually. Any negativity around really affects him, and he's like a recluse, kind of like a Buddha monk type guy. He's constantly smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, which I told him to stop. You know what I mean? I think, he's like that. He's just got his mum, no brothers, no sisters, just him and his mum. Mum lives in the country. He's really, he's mad. He's a really lovely guy, really gentle. Really giving, you know what I mean? Once you know him, he'll do anything for you, but he's very secretive and elusive. I can't even find him sometimes. I know where his flat's at in Clapham Common, but he's only there half the year. Half the year he's in the country, he don't answer the phone, we change his number. Most of the time you can only speak to him through Code 9. So very, very strange guy. And it's great, because this is how he's kept the branding intact. He's kept the branding intact without trying to. Got offered at a big festival. Can't remember what it was. Years ago, knew that I was hanging out at Burial. Through the trouble trying to get hold of him and figure out what Guam. Said to me, if you can get Burial to come and do you and Burial together on a stage or whatever, we'll pay something like 6 racks or some shit like that. I rung him straight away. I was like, man, they want to give us $6,000 to fucking do an hour on the bloody stage. He said, I can't, El. I can't, El. I said, look, take the 4, I take the 2. Because, you know, we're getting the gig is mostly off of your name, we're getting this thing. He said, I can't, El, I can't. I said, we'll work the whole set out of my studio and just go there and pretend to twiddle knobs. Leave it to me. I'll do all the work live. You just fucking would do everything pre-recorded. You ain't got to do shit. He said, I can't, El. He said, as soon as I see a crowd, as soon as I get up on the stage and I see, or even if I turn up and I know I'm going to play, as soon as I see a crowd like 500 people or some shit, he said, my gut just goes and I can't take it, man. I can't even be around people. He said, I couldn't do it, El. He said, I wouldn't be able to do it, stand up on stage. I was like, Yeah, so he's like that, man. He's like that. You won't find him. You won't find him. You won't see him. You won't meet him. Nothing's going to change, man.
So what are you going to do for us here now?
Let's draw out my snare and work it from there with whatever drums we got here. Let's try and find some thin shit with some potential. Okay. Who wants to come and jam these dots on this on this screen here?
Why don't you just do it, Lewis? You go for it. Unless someone's feeling brave.
Nah, go on.
You will?
Someone step up real quick. Just like mad.
Go on. Yeah, there you go. Well done.
See the hat is on, yeah? It's black note, yeah. First one, yeah. Do like all in full. Now do 16 trails all the way across. Yeah, that's one on every dot. Right, now play that in straight 16. We're just going to go a quick quantized swing so everybody doesn't know the difference between that and 16. See? Everybody hear the difference in that? Yeah. Take it up to 130. Right, so what we did is trail 16 straight across, right? Piss easy. Flipped it into whatever swing you want. Try. Go to 16 D. Now go to the next one, 16E, and hear the Carl Brown swing. That's the dutty one. That's probably the one that most are looking for when it comes to garage. Proper fucking late. All right, cool. All right, back to a D. All right, sweet. Because the E is a bit ridiculous. Ghost, I don't really go further than this one right here. You know, play that real quick. Yeah, I don't really go swingy than that on the Ghost thing. All right, now with the open hat, you know, you do your regular in between with the next one up. So that's one in the middle of every bar. Everybody, like, nobody's new to the point where they don't know that we're looking at one bar with 16 beat quantize on that bar, and every thicker line is your kick drum, your 1, 2, 3, 4. Thicker line, thicker line, thicker. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you count these, that's 16 across. So yeah, give me one in between every beat. Yeah, but the next line up, the next black one, see that? Yeah. Now you know what that's gonna sound like, isn't it? All right. Now see your trails. Now, right. This is the mad piece. Now, touch the volume back a little bit, so that the open eye out on the top comes out a little bit more. Right. So then now we're gonna do what they call accenting, which is very important for your live feel. If you've got no accents on your volumes, you ain't gonna get a drum that sounds kind of live. It's gonna sound robotic, everything the same level. You know what I mean? So what we're gonna do is. This is where you can get random and you can do anything you want. It's going to happen. If we just do some of these volumes of these, do you know how to get the volume at the bottom?
Yeah, the velocity.
No, but you can like float the arrow down here until it changes icon and drag this blue line up and there's a bar underneath. Yeah, did you see it change there before that popped up? See that? See that little flick? Yeah. Now drag up. Yeah. Now, whatever you put at the bottom here, show you, which you're looking at velocity, is fantastic. So you just blacken your green line, and this will highlight. But you don't need to do that anyway. All I want you to do is just do some of these, pull some of these down randomly. Give me a little random up and down in volume of them hi-hats there. Obviously, that's more accenting. It's going to make them sound even more natural. All right, so that can be randomly as you want it. Now, randomly, oh no, keep these ones, yeah, keep them ones up all the time. That's what you use to mix to. You don't want them, you know, that's what you're riding to along with the beat. You don't want that to go up and down in volume, definitely not. So see these ones now, randomly, don't think about it, just randomly rub out any three. And I'll just show you how you can play with this now, and it's always going to sound good as long as you lay this plate first. Now play that. Starting to, okay, it's got a little character to it now because it's got a little start and stop and that. Okay, boom. Now you put a kick drum at the beginning. Where's the kick away? Yeah, put a kick drum at the beginning. There for now. Put your first snare wherever you want it, G.
You want the rim?
Whatever you want, whatever sounds good. But make it strong, because what we might do is put a couple of quieter ones underneath it. You know, when we get our percussion in there, it's going to be less than this. So make this one strong, because this one will be your main one, isn't it? For now, it don't matter. So what are you going for? Play. Let's see where you put that first snare.
On the off the T.
Okay. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Are you going on the off? Yeah. Okay, well look, let's put everything bang on, like the most standard robotic. Yeah, so boom, cat. Yeah, that's it. Boom, cat. Another snare on the next predictable one. Okay. A kick drum in the most predictable place there before it. Okay, like run that. Right, you got your average pop one now, right? But you can turn it into anything as long as you lay this plate right here. Lay that plate right now. Now, these three here, you can put them more or less anywhere you want, G. Go on, mash them up. You might just do 2 positions till you find one you like or whatever. We won't even dilly-dally on it too tough. Right, nice. You know why I like this? What you done? You haven't done any in-betweens yet. And you ain't done what I call the before and afters. Right? So you see the main lines, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4. And where the hi-hat, the open hi-hat sits, is in between the 1, 2, 3, 4, right? There's a point where it comes before and after the main 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's, say, this beat here, for instance, it's going to be here or here. Do you understand what I'm saying? See your thicker lines that indicate the 1, 2, 3, 4. You're either going to dot one before or you're going to dot one straight after it. These are what I call the swing points. It's the only choice you have. It's the only choice you have. Let me show you where all the swing points are on this bar. This is going to sound a bit mad. Give me, find a little rim shot, something small, a little tiny something that kind of indicates a rim shot. Is that your snare, yeah? Keep that nice and strong. We want something that goes underneath that, yeah? Well, you got something?
That one?
Yeah. All right. Now, put one all the way across before and after every main line. So what that means is one's there, one's there, one's there. You know what I mean? One's there, one's there. One's there, one's there. And one's right there. That's it.
Yeah.
You got one before. This one's not. Yeah, that's it. One after. Yep, you got one before, one after. Yep, you got one before, one after. Yep, and the one at the end you're missing.
Is that one, right? Oh, yeah.
One right at the end. And you complete the pattern. That's it. Now swing that line. No, play it without swing. See how shit it sounds. Now swing that line. Why so many? Why so many? Why has he got so many on there? Because I'm showing you this is every single swing choice you'll ever have before and after the line. Now, that's all the choices. That's all your swing points. You ain't really got no more than that because they'll fall on the beat or right in the middle of it. There's no swing there. So these are swung. Now randomly just take out 4 of them. Any 4. Take one, any one, and move it to another one of those swing point places that you've rubbed away from. It's always going to sound good. It doesn't matter where you put it now. On this format, it's going to sound bad. On this format, you can put it anywhere. You can close your fucking eyes and move it. It's going to sound dope because this method works. This method works so goddamn well. So remember what we did. A trail of 16 all the way across with your small hi-hats. We swung them. You took away at random, innit? You put your open hi-hat on the top, right in between to create your so you know where you stand. That's these two here. After you put a kick drum at the beginning, you're good to go. Do your thing. Do anything you want. We can sit here doing this all day. Him shifting parts around and getting different variations of a badass beat. Oh, shit, that one sounds like Zed Bias. Oh, shit, that one sounds a bit like that tune. You know what I'm saying? Because that's all they fucking do.
Would you do that? I mean, as in create, say, 4 different sections, 8 different sections? Yeah?
You take this and you repeat it 3 more times and you put your change on the last one. Now you've got what they call a phrase. Might be a 16-bar phrase, might be an 8-bar phrase, but you've got what they call a phrase. You know what I mean? And you might take that phrase and copy it over again and put an even better change on the end, a different change, and now you've got your doubled up phrase, like there's 32. And when I look on the arrangement, one phrase might be 1 whole minute. You know? With an intro and a mid-break, 4 phrases, that's your whole fucking tune. So you see how this works? Mad effective. Slightly different technique with the 4/4 tunes, though. This is where it gets a little. You have less freedom with this one. You see it though. Can you take this? Can you take this home? What you've just done?
I'll take a picture of it.
But we trailed the 16. We trailed the 16 of the small hi-hats. We swung it and edited it to your liking. You put your open hi-hat over the top, and you just went with it. Kick drum at the beginning. It's those 3 things. Trail your hi-hats and swing them. Put your open hat over the top. Start editing how you want, and go with your kick and snare. You're off.
That is gold.
You know what I mean? It's
That's
such
gold.
a simple, effective method. It's how to make a fucking garage beat 101. 4/4 gets a bit complicated because 4/4 tracks be using the 16. C and the D and the E. They be going deeper with it like that. And with the 4/4 stuff, it's kind of half the house family. So they be doing things like, rather than get 1 kick and 1 snare, what we just did there, and just fatten them up, they be getting 2 kicks and layering them together like house guys do, and then layer the clap with their snare. So it gets a bit more techie. Let's try a 4/4 thing. Not even with the same. Yeah, we could try it with the same sounds as we got here, yeah, just to see how bloody hard it is, how we whip that up so easy, and the 4/4 takes a little bit more tending to. You know what I mean? You got to massage it some more.
You want to start again with the hats?
Yeah, we delete off, I say for the 4/4, you obviously delete off everything but that red open hi-hat that you've got in the middle. Obviously, innit? You delete off everything, but yeah, that's the spine of a 4/4 track. Obviously, you got your kick drums in there. Should we check for a little tiny kick drum, a little tight one, that we can do that flicker thing that I was talking about with the kick drums? We can bounce 2 off of them.
we could
tell you what I do.
take the sub of that.
Yeah, I tell you what I do. Maybe a next channel with a little pitched up version of it on there or something. Same one but pitched up a bit. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what Carl does. Have a little pitched up one.
Yeah,
Okay, so your swing points are, once again, always before and after the line. Before and after the line. So let's get those two little kick drums and put one before and after this kick drum right here. Third one. So your little kick drums, one before and one after the kick drum there on the.
One, right? You want the high one?
Yeah, that little tight one. Just one before. So let's just dash one before. Now we know that before and after the line theory. Let's dash one before and one after the line of that kick drum there. So we'll have one here and one here. That's it. And then fuck the first three off. Right, now you swing these two. You're gonna have dum 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 kutuku dum 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 kutuku. That's your Carl Brown. That's your bouncy kicks. You see what I'm saying? You see the effect of that? See how nice that is? Run that again. Damn. Ugh, we're already off. Okay, so house
easy.
House and 4/4 garage. Yeah, to write the groove is the easy bit with the 4/4 in the house, but to process your sounds takes a little bit more, care and attention. Because you notice they're smooth with it. You know what I mean? It thumps, but
it's easy to make the loops. It's the arrangement which is the challenge, I reckon.
What with
most people
with the house?
Most people with either any style of music, you can create the 4-bar loop, 8-bar loop, but then.
Yeah, I know some young'uns that are great on production, but they haven't got the arrangement can bore you halfway through, and the mix down as well has a lot to be desired, leaves a lot to be desired, you know what I mean?
What else are you going to do to this then?
Well, you know the motion, a clap goes in there on the regular spot, second and fourth kick drum. Okay, so you take it from there. But basically, do you remember we was doing remember when we did the trail of hi-hats, little tight hi-hats? Play the beat. It sounds like we're missing some hi-hats, some skip, some groove in there, doesn't it? Play it again. Obviously, that's how a badass beat comes out the gate and starts on you. But when the tune gets going, we want that. We want some in there, okay? We want the swing in there. So we get the little hi-hats out again, the little tight ones. And once again, the same old fucking thing, bro. It's the same old stuff. It's before and after the line. You could, for structure, with house and 4/4 tracks, you can structure what you've got here already by putting one on and in between. You know what I mean? So it covers what you've got here already. It will sharpen up what you've got here already. So basically your tight hi-hat will be going on every beat and in between every beat.
Just on the 8s?
Yeah, it's basically on the 8s. So you could do things like this to structure it. Look, play it and it will just emphasize what you've got. It emphasizes what you've got there already. But now when you start putting them before and after that line, you've obviously got your swing now. So you could literally grab that whole line and move it over onto swing points once you put the quantize back on the 16. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Swung it, yeah? And then randomly rub half of them out. Choose half of them to randomly rub out. Or a couple or some shit. Because you ain't got your pattern until you customize it. Start taking a couple of them away. There you go. There you go. And you've got your pattern right now, but you can hear it. Play it. There's something wrong with it. It's a little bit sharp, innit? Play it. So this is where you'll do things like pitch down that hi-hat a little tiny bit. You know, the tight little hi-hat, what you just written? You know, you might turn it down, squash it on the limiter, pitch it down a little bit, because the aim of the house is the brilliance with house. Is
Pitch the tone down or pitch the volume down, you're talking about?
pitch the pitch, the tone, yeah, the tone. You actually pitch it down, you know what I mean? Oh, are you lowering it, yeah? You're lowering it?
Yeah.
Did you do it? I heard the difference. You hear the difference when you load it. It's not so sharp. It smooths it, camouflages it in there. The beauty with house is the way they smooth everything off and push it in there where it still thumps, but it's nice and smooth, you know what I mean? That's the grace of house, man, that garage doesn't have. Garage wants to be abrupt and hard and sharp and knocking, you know what I mean? Yeah, man, but that's, you see how easy the thing is? This is why I got someone, anyone, any of y'all could do what has just been done here. Do you
It's
know what I
actually
mean?
an amazing insight you've just given us there.
Yeah,
It
and
really is.
everything we've done is a variation of the same thing. It's a variation of what you did in the first place. A 16 trail with a tight hi-hat. You put your main rider over the top so you can hear yourself, and then you just customize your trail. Start taking things away. Not till you take away do you have that groove. You take away at your leisure how you want to do it. You shift a couple rounds till you got it. Yeah, that's nice. Simple, simple, simple. I feel that if I had jumped on there and started just doing things, I'm moving my hands all fast, and it's not going to sink in, you know what I mean? It's not going to sink in. Anyone that hasn't got it by now, all we'd have to do is delete that off the screen and do it one more time, and you've got it. You've got it forever then. No way have you not. You know what I mean? If it's anything else, should we try some processing through a compressor real quick to see how that pushing of the gains and that squashing of the limiter takes effect? Does anyone do that? Does anyone want to hear that? Like, you're very smooth, man. Make you my engineer, boy. Like, you're quick with it. Oh, he's quick with it, right? So so I know how to work the whole thing now, but the two that I only really messed with before was that limiter right there. You turn that on, and the more you turn that to the left. Now, this is not just this machine.
What is it you're pointing at then? Can you just talk us through that?
It's a limiter and a threshold to it.
Yeah, go and talk. What does it do?
Well, it's the same. It's not just this compressor. You'll be able to go and do this on any compressor that's got a limiter. So you activate it by turning it on. And the more you turn the knob to the left, the more it's doing this with your top volume.
Yeah. So the more you put it to the left, the more it squashes.
The more it's squashing it from the top downwards. And when it's actually in squash, when it's actually doing its work, that lights up to let you know where it's squashing, where and when it's squashing. You know what I mean? I'll basically turn that on and whack it all the way to the left with drums. Yeah, push it all the way to the left. I don't know if other ones. I mean, I've used some other ones, and I just do the same thing with them, and it still does the same effect. Maybe some compressors will just sound shit when you put it all. But whack it all the way to the left, so we're on full squash. Because when we're on full squash, then we can go full pump on the makeup. The more you push that up, the more it's distorted it's going to get. The more rowdy it's going to sound. And then you can touch the volume back down and all that, down here or whatever, but like, this is the technique of keeping that squash. It's like you've got a pit bull that's just running against the short lead, man. You know what I mean? It's pushing against that restriction all the time, and it sounds fat.
Yeah, immediately you can feel the flavour now, can't you?
This is the cheap, quick, fast, effective way that I do my drums, man. Pump up with the gains and squash with a limiter, anyone I could get my hands on. This one has a built-in limiter. Sometimes there's no limiter on a compressor. You have to draw one in separately. And that's it. Other than that, you can play with things like the distortion.
You don't touch the ratio or anything?
Ratio, you can play with things like ratio as well. Yeah, ratio is good for slightly different effects. You know, your attack and your release is good for slightly different effects, but these are the two things that will give you what you want straight away. And you don't have to touch nothing else, and it's doing the thing. Anything else is just extras exploring, you know what I mean? But for drums, very subtle. You start playing with these, and it's very subtle. When it comes to drums, the difference in when you start playing with these is very subtle. You know what I mean? Unless you touch them too, and it just goes mad.
Sweet.
That's the theory. I don't do that with none of my sounds. Don't do all this intense pushing of the volume and intense restriction with sounds. I let them flow. I let them go. You know what I mean? If you've got some notes and one note's poking out, just put a little gentle limiter so that one note doesn't, do you know what I mean, go ahead of anything else. Other than that, nah, let all the sounds go, let all the sounds free. Squash the hell out of drums. And there's a nice medium between the bass. I kind of go in the middle with the bass. Squash like we just did here, but I don't go as hard. You know what I mean? Because you'll get a distortion quick and just break the frequency of bass up. You want to keep it quite solid. You know when you've got a sample bass line and the more you play it down the keyboard, the more it starts to fragment and break up and it doesn't come through and push strong. You get that type of thing, you know what I mean? When you're limiting too much on bass, it can fragment the frequency and it's not solid anymore. So yeah, quite easy. Just contain the bass, control it gently. Sounds, leave them alone. And yeah, squash the hell out your drums on that, man. To compound them and press them, make them smack. That's about it.
Well, I think that's actually amazing, the insight we've just been given there on how I mean, it's so simple, actually, what you're doing there, and it immediate bangers.
Yeah, it's gotta be. I mean, the only tip for like that banging effect is choose your sounds that punch. Yeah, choose the sounds that punch, and do some of this technique in compressors, because you can really turn some thin plug-in kits into some push it and limit it like that with that thing there, like we just did, and pitching down. That's another little secret on a technique. You know, transpose a snare and a kick down sometimes to make it sound a bit more violent and rowdy. That's another good technique. With a little bit of pitching down and some pumping up on the gains and some squashing on the limiters, you can turn some thin-ass drums into like what you want, man. Like serious stuff.
Well, I think that's been pretty amazing, right? Can we have a round of applause for LB?
No. Thanks to you lot, man. I bless you lot for being patient. Coming out on a wet
That was amazing.
wet Wednesday night to get some insight into this, you know what I mean? So I'm glad if I've simplified it and you're able to take this little techers away.
100%.
That'd be good, man.
Are there any questions quickly before we wrap up?
No,
There's a couple now.
You smashed it.
Where's the mics?
Where's
the mic?
Put back the thing. I'm just going to leave what we had on the screen. The first thing, what he wrote. So y'all could see.
For like melodies and stuff, how much sort of music theory do you have, and what would be your tips for people who sort of
Say that again.
like how much music theory do you have in terms of writing melodies and stuff, and like what would your tips be for someone that doesn't have that sort of traditional background in playing piano or whatever?
That's a good question, man. That's a good question. You know, it's going to sound a bit weird. Do you know what I'd say? Try and study live music. Try and listen to a vast range of music, because I noticed one thing when I was coming up in the production world and I started to get good. I noticed that those that weren't very good, they didn't have a much of a live. They wasn't experienced. They wasn't very versed. They didn't get the opportunity to listen to much live music. Do you know what I mean? Like, it really expands your production. Because I mean, look, we do dance music. It's electronic. It's what I call 2D music. Live music is 3D. It's three-dimensional. If you catch my drift, it's not button pushing. You know what I'm saying? It's not button pushing. It's serious stuff, you know, to have an effect with your instrument. You have to be practicing, you have to be on it since you're like 6, 7, 8 years old, man. You've been putting like 10 years plus. So you can learn so much from live music, man, and incorporate that into your dance production, and you'll have a bigger dynamic, a better, deeper dynamic than these 2D dance producers, man. Like, it's like a lot of people are just getting programmed like Arcade to just do all their effects at a press of a button, and drag and dropping all their samples from online sample libraries that you pay a subscription to. And there's so much stuff on there, you can just make a whole track from drag and dropping. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's my advice, is try and broaden the knowledge, man. Try and broaden the knowledge.
Yeah,
Same-
listen to a wide variety of music, understand song
Defo,
structures.
like from I'm a rinser. Like I'll rinse out, I'll latch onto something and cane it till I'm pissed off of it and move on to the next thing. It's quite bad actually. And I've done it with reggae bashment. I've done it with all the South American music. Done it with loads of shit.
Yep.
And one thing I did it with was R&B music. And from listening to R&B music, I learned how to do song arrangements. And from singing along with R&B music when no one's looking, when no one's listening, not only did I, obviously you will do, start touching up your lungs a little bit, start tightening up your vocal cords and learning how to actually sing a note, but I learned how to latch onto the harmonies that they have. You know, the different layers of harmonies in their harmonies, different layers of melodies, like 3-part, 4-part harmonies. I began to start to dissect them and I could sing the different harmonies and stuff like that. So I'm learning about melodies and stuff, you know what I mean? So don't knock it. Don't knock it. Don't knock it. Opus is a really talented guy from the Ghost Crew that does some particularly different sounding stuff. Like no one else has combined musics like I've heard him do it. Like he invented the fucking G-hop concept, grime and hip hop. It's basically, it was like hip hop on 140 BPM and he absolutely buried it. And DEE and all them came to come and fucking feature on a track once they heard the sound. He smashed it. But this is all because his dad rammed rock music down his throat when he was little. His dad was a teddy boy, a rocker, you know what I mean? And he ordered a British punk growing up. No jazz, no rare grooves like I had, you know what I mean? It was British punk rock and do you know what I mean? And that's influenced his music in a different way because he brings all those influences to the table now. You got something else. So don't knock it. Listen to loads of different things and study this shit out stuff and it will expand your skill.
I mean, there was one more question in the corner there. Go for it.
Yo, Safe G, how you doing?
Yes. Where you at? Where we at? Oh yeah, what you saying, bro? I've been after you for a while.
Yeah,
We've got to do the digits thing on the way out.
Definitely, man, definitely. I had a quick question just about, ever since I've been listening to your music has a crazy presence and air around it. Like, I remember from that Music Radar interview you did back in like 2008 or something, you're like, there's the drums, the bass, and everything else. And I was wondering if you could tell us your philosophy about everything else. Like, just the air I hear in your music, bro. Like,
all I know,
rainforest sounds and stuff.
Yeah, all I know is, okay, look, my granddad's Nigerian. Yeah, my granddad's, my real surname, the B, really stands for Bolaji. Yeah, Bolaji, Yoruba Nigerian, quarter Nigerian, right? So it's kind of like, the tribal kind of rhythmical thing is in the blood, especially with my dad being in with all the salsa bands and all that. I used to play with Santana and that sometimes. So he's with all these salsa bands and I used to love going along to that. I didn't like all the shit, but I used to love the salsa groups because they were really like, you know what I mean? Like, peeps, you know, bands, peeps can really stand there and stare at a band and nod their head and just watch, you know what I mean? But when the salsa bands get up there, girls are just moving and getting spun around the dance floor. People are dancing, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to be noticed, bruv. I said to myself, you know what? I'm not going to put down, because I used to do loads of drawing and when I was getting in trouble at school. I just draw for hours. It's the only thing I could do. I wouldn't put the pencil down to be no producer and not be noticed, you know, be camouflaged in with the rest. So I made a conscious decision to be how I was at school, louder than the rest, arrogant, you know what I mean? Like, notice me with the music, you know what I mean? Like, really notice me with the music. And I don't know how to describe it, because it's easy for me to say that because I found a little way to mix the drum and bass with the garage at the right time. The timing was good. If you try to do that shit now or before, it wouldn't have worked. But at that time, it was perfect, you know what I mean? At the turn of 2000, it's perfect. So it's easy for me to say that because definitely timing has a lot to do with it. But if you can just like, speak louder than others, man. You know what I mean? If you can speak louder than others, if not, look louder than others. You know, we see that all the time. Music ain't strong, but the branding's good, you know what I mean? We don't forget their image. Can't fucking remember their songs, we don't forget their image.
I think that's a good note to wrap up on there. Let's have another round of applause for LB.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, bless. I like doing this. Been doing this shit for a while.